Hi there, students! I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, cause that's what I am. I'm a Puppy-sensei and I make Japanese content to help you level up your abilities. Today we're going to get a little bit of an anatomy lesson. If you've followed along with my words of the day, you've already picked up on the fact that I've been teaching you medical related words. And if you haven't been following along with my words of the day, you really should absolutely watch the one on the word jinzo, kidney, that I did with Rico Siempre, because I swear it's my favorite word of the day that I've ever put out there. I watch it all the time and I just laugh to myself. But enough about my problems. For some of you, this lesson might feel like a little bit of a vocabulary review, but that's okay. We all need that sometimes, you know? It's important to take a step back from time to time and think about the basics. And what could be more basic than our bodies? Well, a lot of things, actually. A carbon atom? Something that's not acidic? Some random girl named Stephanie? All very basic. Let's get into it. Ikimashou! Okie dokie. So, before we get into today's content, I actually have a surprise reveal for you all. Get ready. Drum roll, please. Check it out! Ba-ba! I have a 3D model now. Pretty cool. I have to thank JettSett and D0LL for being so kind as to hook me up with this model. To be honest, I've been waiting for the perfect time to reveal it, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized the perfect time to reveal would be as a model in this episode, because today we're going to be talking about parts of the body. So I thought I would use this new 3D model to show off the various parts of the body. By the end of this lesson, you should have a pretty good understanding of most parts of the body, except a few that I might not discuss. You know, the naughty parts. I guess if you really want to know how to talk about those bits, you can just message me. But maybe don't do it all at once. It's going to be really weird if a whole bunch of people suddenly message me on Discord asking me how to say, Right, so we should start with the word for the body itself. That word is karada. Karada means body. It can be used for a human body or like some animal's body, like a cute doggo. However, karada can also be used figuratively in many different senses. It can mean something like the body of a car in certain cases, or even just something's like overall shape or its form. It is also sometimes used as a counter word for things like humanoid figures, like dolls or cardboard cutouts or marketable plushies. You know, merch. Why would we use karada as a counter word for figures of humanoid beings, but not for humans themselves? That's because the counter word for people is jin or nin. We can also find the word karada, body, in various phrases related to health. Karada ga yowai means to be in poor health. So that would obviously mean that karada ga tsuyoi implies being in great health or being quite fit. It makes sense that the idea of our bodies and our health should go hand in hand. So with that in mind, if you don't already know it, we should learn the word for health. Kenko. Kenko, health. We've actually studied this word before on this channel. I know that these kanji look kind of difficult, but we're not going to do a serious deep dive into these at this time because I've actually already covered them. But we can also talk about having good holistic health or bad holistic health using phrases like these. Kenko ga ii, to be in good health. Kenko ga warui, to be in bad health. It's definitely my vibe that kenko implies a more scientific and all-around approach to health, which is why we see kenko used in phrases like these. Kenko joutai, the condition of one's health, one's overall health condition. Kenko joutai. Staying healthy is definitely important, and it's taken very seriously in Japan. In Japan, you often see a bunch of preventative measures taken to maintain a healthy body and to fight off disease. No mask debates in Japan. They are still very common in most public spaces. Huh. It's almost as if we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. Isn't that interesting? Well, we've already learned karada, and I told you that it can mean both your body and also your torso. But there's actually another word, do. Do can mean something like your abdomen or your trunk, effectively the same thing as your torso. But I really tend to think of your whole kind of core as being your karada. I don't usually see the word do used often to mean like your whole like your whole midsection. Usually karada is used for that. Next, let's focus on your legs. In Japanese, the word for leg is ashi. Pretty easy, right? Ashi, leg, no problem. So what about your foot then? Well, the word for foot in Japanese is also ashi. Yeah, it's the same. In Japanese, the most common way to talk about your leg and your foot uses the same word and the same kanji. It's just ashi. Ashi, leg, ashi, foot. Technically, there are ways to differentiate your foot from the rest of your leg, but we're not going to get into them today because basically ashi is just the most common way to refer to your leg, or your foot, or the whole thing all as one. However, we will talk about your ankle specifically because I like it. Ashikubi. In Japanese, your ankle is your ashikubi. We've already established that your foot is your ashi. And kubi means neck. So kubi is your neck. And therefore, ashikubi is the neck of your foot neck, which I find kind of adorable. And also, it makes sense, I think. Your foot neck is your ankle. It's the neck of your leg or your foot. Also, I like ashikubi much more than the word ankle. Ankle is such a weird sounding word. I knew someone who was non-binary and they became an ankle when their sister had kids. Like an ankle, like an uncle and an aunt, like together, like ankle. That's what they said they were. But yeah, that's whatever. The point is that ashikubi is a cool word and I like it. The heel of your foot is your kakato. Kakato is one of those words that isn't normally written in kanji, which is to say that you don't absolutely need to know how to write the kanji for kakato. But heck, it isn't going to hurt you to know how to recognize the kanji meaning heel. In fact, if you're a Greek hero, it might even save your life. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Knowing how to write the kanji for heel in Japanese probably would not have helped Achilles in any way, shape, or form. Your knee in Japanese is your hiza. We'll cover this later as well, but elbow is hiji. So hiji is your elbow and hiza is your knee. Hiji, elbow. Hiza, knee. There's a fun trick that you can play on unsuspecting Japanese school kids where you ask them a bunch of questions over and over about pizza or something, and then somehow you coerce them into mistaking their elbow for their knee, and then you laugh mercilessly at them. I don't actually know how it works. Oh, I almost forgot your toesies. Okay, so toes in Japanese is tsumesaki. Tsumesaki. This is a cool word. So tsumesaki means before the nail. So your toe is the part of your foot that is in front of your toenails. Don't ask me why that is, because your fingers are not also before the nail. Maybe it has something to do with like the size of our toes relative to the size of our toenails. I don't actually know. It's fine. But I think it's cute that in Japanese they're called tsumesaki. I also think that's cute that socks are called kutsushita, which means under the shoe, but that's not the content for this lesson, so let's just move on. Okay, so the next one is your kurahagi. fukurahagi ですね。fukurahagi. The calf of your leg in Japanese is called your fukurahagi. That literally translates to the bulge of your lower leg. Fukurahagi. The bulge of your lower leg. Which is horrible, and I never ever want to think about it again, ever. Yuck. Also, why do we call that part of your leg calf in English? If anyone knows, sound off in the comments because I'd really like to learn. I think that's really weird. Next is your futomomo. Futomomo. Futomomo means your thigh in Japanese. Your thigh is your futomomo. Honestly, I'm not even going to break down why it's called futomomo. If you want to know, please feel empowered to research on your own because I am still traumatized by your lower leg bulge. I will, however, tell you that futomomo can in some cases refer to your butt. However, a much more common word for your butt is oshiri! 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 It means butt. My butt is my butt. My butt, my butt. It's actually honorable butt. See that O? That means we honor the butt. Technically, you can drop the O and just say shiri, but at that point, it's not teinego. It's not polite language. So when you say just shiri, you're being a bit crass. A bit. Oh, one interesting thing, okay? You might know a game in Japanese called shiritori. Shiritori is a word game where you start a word with the last syllable, or more, from the previous word. So, jitensha would become shakai, right? You're taking the sha from jitensha and you're making shakai. Shakai would become inaka. Inaka would become kakekotoba. Kakekotoba would become bangohan. And then the person who said bangohan loses the game because you're not allowed to end a sound in the N sound, right? Because no Japanese word can begin with just the N hiragana. So that's like the rule of the game, is that if you say a word and it ends in that final N consonant just with the N by itself, then you lose and everyone laughs at you. Anyway, I bring all of this up because the game shiritori literally translates to butt grab. It's this same oshiri. It's the same shiri from oshiri. You're just grabbing the butt of each word in the game. Kind of cool. Similar to your butt is your koshi, your waist. Koshi means waist. And that can also include your lower back. When it's pronounced goshi, this kanji can also refer to your posture. Posture check! Goshi wa dou? Ergo wa taisetsu ne. How's your posture? Ergonomics are important. Or so they tell me. Opposite your lower back would be your stomach, and in Japanese, stomach is onaka. Onaka. Onaka is your stomach. Stomach is another one of those that gets an honorific, right? Onaka. We see that O in the front. That's because it's teinego. It's polite language. There are a number of phrases relating to hunger in Japanese that use the term onaka. Let's learn a couple. Onaka ga ippai. Onaka ga ippai. I'm full. Literally, my stomach is crammed full. I'm stuffed. I've eaten too much. You often hear this phrase spoken with like a little bit of an accent, like, onaka ga ippai. It's not always a complaint, though. It can be kind of like a very satisfied sounding comment, right? Onaka ga ippai. I'm very happy I ate everything that I wanted to eat, and so onaka ga ippai. Yeah. The opposite phrase would be one that means I'm hungry. Onaka ga suita. Onaka ga suita. I am hungry. That kanji that you see there, maybe you recognize it for meaning empty. Do you see that in suita? That's the kanji that means empty. Can also be read sora or sky, but it usually means empty. So, onaka ga suita means my stomach is absolutely empty. I have to eat something or I don't know, implode. Oh, but there are also some cool guy phrases that cool guys will say, and cool guys don't use honorific language. So, if you're a super cool guy and you don't have time for the rules and you want to be a bad boy who goes out behind the bleachers and says impolite phrases, you can say something like this. Haraga hetta. Haraga hetta. Haraga hetta means I'm starved. Notice here that we're not using onaka for tummy. That's the same kanji that we used in onaka, but here we're calling it hara. And that's because we're showing no respect whatever to the tummy. Yeah, who cares about stupid tummies? Rawr! Punch the tummy. Oh. Ow. Ow. Bad idea. Don't punch the tummy. Anyway, haragahetta is very casual. It's also like a slang way to say something that if you're really hungry, you want to say haragahetta. It's very slangy. It literally means my tummy is decreased or my tummy has shrunk. It sounds way cooler in Japanese. Haragahetta. You can also, if you're a cool guy, you can say haragatatta. Haragatatta means my tummy is standing up, which is apparently the sensation that you experience when you're absurdly pissed off. If you're really, 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 really extremely mad at something that somebody said, you can exclaim, haragatatta! It's like, I'm so mad. I'm so mad that I feel it in my tummy. But be warned, using this language is more likely to start a fight than resolve one. These are rude phrases, after all. Next is your back, your senaka. This is sort of interesting to me. So senaka means your back, but your se, just the first kanji there, just se by itself, is your height. So se ga takai means tall, and se ga hikui means short. Literally, your height is high or your height is low. Your senaka, then, your back, is the center of your height. I suppose that makes sense because, like, if you wanted to make yourself as tall as possible, I guess you would straighten out your back. And I guess your back is, like, the midpoint of your entire stature, right? I mean, I'm sure the center of your height is somewhere in the middle of your back, isn't it? It has to be. That only makes sense. Hold on. Let me see. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Your shoulders in Japanese are called your kata. Kata is a sound profile in the Japanese language that has a lot of homophones, actually. So kata can be heard in the word for shoulders, shape, a martial arts form, a mold, a direction, a person, in some cases, particularly when used in polite speech. It can be like a surplus or an excess. It can be a lagoon, it can be one part of a pair, and so on and so on. Basically, kata is just a common combination of phonetic sounds in Japanese, the way that eight or rose is in English. The rows of roses rose in eights, so I ate them. Weird sentence. Anyway, kata means shoulders, especially with the kanji that we see here. I find it interesting that I often hear Japanese people talk about pain in their shoulders the way that we talk about a pain in our back. A back rub, for instance, is often called a katatataki. That's very fun to say. Katatataki. Katatataki. It's literally striking the shoulders. So this would be specifically the kind of back massage where you like punch somebody repeatedly in the back. Fun story. One of my dogs hates when you do this to another person. If you are like giving somebody a back rub and it involves punching them lightly in the back, she will get so angry and she will literally growl at you. But that's it because she doesn't know how to bite people, I guess. Anyway, a stiff neck would be a katakori. A katakori, a stiff neck. That kori comes from the verb koru, which means to be stiff. Oh, right, I said I wasn't going to talk about naughty parts, but we can talk about this word instead. Mune. Mune, it means your chest. Mune. It's actually sort of funny. So mune can mean your entire chest region, like everything in your chest, but by extension, it also means your breasts, like a like breasts, like boobs. But it can also mean your lungs, your heart, your midsection, but also it can additionally have a very figurative meaning that includes such things as your heart or your feelings or your emotions or the things that you hold the most dear. So, if you're someone who's particularly into breasts, then I guess you could have a mune no mune, a heart for chests. There are other things that I could say about the word mune, but if I go on, I'm afraid I might get flagged. Plus I'm also I'm embarrassed. In Japanese, your arm is your ude. Ude, we see that kanji here, ude. I don't usually hear people differentiate between the upper and lower arm. I'm sure that like gym bros and people who are very concerned with muscles probably talk about muscle groups and their upper and lower arms, but to be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time with Japanese bodybuilders. Except for that one guy that I dated who was a Japanese bodybuilder, but we only went on 3 dates and he never taught me the word for tricep in Japanese, so we're not going to talk about it. Anyway, unlike your leg, ashi, in Japanese, which has the same word for like leg and foot, right? Ashi is your leg and your foot. However, the word for your arm and your hand are different in Japanese. I guess hands are probably way more important than feet, but yeah. The word for your hand in Japanese is te. I also really like this kanji because it looks like the lines in your palm. Can you see it? I don't know. I can see it. Anyway, there's an amazing kibyoshi. Kibyoshi is a type of Edo period comic book that I'm very, very interested in. They're basically all gone now, and you can't really get your hands on them very easily. But anyway, one of these kibyoshi is stuffed full of puns using the word te. It's called Daihi no Senrokuhon, and I really love it. So the story of Daihi no Senrokuhon involves the goddess Kanon. Kanon is often depicted as having a ton of hands. In fact, she's often called Thousand-Armed Kanon. She looks something like this. Anyway, Daihi no Senrokuhon is a very old comic book where Kanon is experiencing an economic downturn, and in order to make ends meet, she actually has to cut off her hands and rent them out to various people. And hilarity ensues. Basically, she keeps renting out her hands to people who can't do the things they want to do because she's basically a goddess. So her hands are not compatible with their lifestyle, like prostitution and things like that. Anyway, as I said, it's filled with a bunch of really, really interesting puns that frequently relate to this character, Te. Also, I talked about this recently, but we see the kanji te in the martial arts karate, ne? Karate, karate. That's because karate means empty hand. Hey, there's that same kara that we saw in onaka ga suita, ne? Karate is a martial art that is practiced without weapons, which is why it is called empty hand. In Japanese, a finger is called a yubi. Yubi. Remember before when we were talking about toes and I said that a toe is a tsumesaki? Yeah, not the same with finger. A finger is a yubi. You might already know the word yubi if you're a Korone fan because y'all, that pupper loves fingies. Om nom nom, I guess. We already sort of talked about this before, but when I was telling you about your knee, do you remember the word for knee? It's hiza. Don't get it confused with your hiji. That's this character. Hiji means your elbow. If you do get your hiza and your hiji confused, then I guess some teacher will randomly laugh merciless at you for some reason. I don't know. I still don't get the joke. All right, let's move on to the head. So head in Japanese is atama. Atama, we see it here, atama. There are quite a few phrases in Japanese that will make use of atama. For instance, 我头糖. What? Eh? Nope. 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 That's Chinese. Weird. Weird. What I meant to say was atama ga itai. Atama ga itai, right? So atama means your head. Ga itai, it hurts. Atama ga itai, my head hurts. Some other phrases that use atama, we have atama uchi. Atama uchi means to reach the head of something, to max it out, to reach capacity, something like that. So atama ga uchi, to fully plateau. But there's another phrase that I think is very interesting. So this phrase is zu ga takai. Zu ga takai. Zu ga takai. It's the same kanji, atama, but here it's pronounced zu. Same kanji, different pronunciation. Zu ga takai. It's a way to call someone out for being arrogant or rude. Literally, it means your head is too high. And I think it always, for me, kind of harkens back to the idea of, like, samurai who, you know, would cut you down for not bowing properly. So I kind of think about this phrase, zu ga takai. Yeah. All right, your hair is kami. Kami is another interesting word because hair, gods, and paper are all pronounced kami. And that's pretty cool because all three of those things play some kind of role in Shinto practice. So kami, kami, and kami. Hair, gods, and paper. One singular hair on your head would be kami no ke. Kami no ke. Yeah. And I like this because ke means fur, like an animal's fur. So yeah, hair is people fur, I guess. I suppose. I don't know. I'm a dog. I don't know about these kinds of things, but kami no ke sounds cool. Your neck in Japanese is your kubi. I already taught you that your ankle is your ashi kubi. And here we find kubi. This is the kanji for kubi, your neck. Actually, your wrist is also your te kubi, so it's literally your hand neck. To me, less cute than a foot neck somehow. Te kubi, your wrist. Ashikubi, your ankle. An interesting thing about the word kubi in Japanese. If you are headless in Japanese, you are actually without a neck. Kubi nashi, headless. So kubi nashi means without your neck, and therefore also without your head. It makes sense, I guess. If you're going to cut off someone's head, I suppose you would have to start with the neck. If you're going to cut off someone's head, you start with the neck. That sounds like a weird proverb, and I don't like it. We should next talk about the features of your face. You probably already know a lot of these, so I'm really going to breeze through them quite quickly. Here we go. We'll start with the word for your face. Kao. Kao is your face, just your overall face. Yeah. We also see this word in a lot of different cases, and there's actually another kanji that we sometimes use for your face, which is men, but I'm not going to introduce you to that one today. So kao is your face. Okay? Next is your nose. We've learned this one before as well, so nose, hana, hana, right? The other thing that I like about hana is that hana also means flower. So your nose, hana, and a flower, hana. That's neat because you smell a flower with your nose. Anyway, your mouth is your kuchi. Kuchi is your mouth. Yeah. Iriguchi and deguchi are Japanese words that mean the entrance and the exit. So iriguchi, the mouth that you go into, and deguchi, the mouth that you come out of. Anyway, your eyes are me. Me. Me is a kanji that means your eyes. We can see it here. Me, this is me. You might also hear the word manako. It's a totally different kanji and it's used for literally the eyeball. Ne? Okay. And then we have your ho'o or your ho-ho. Ne? Those are your cheeks. And yeah, that is basically restricted to the cheeks of your face and nowhere else. Etchy. And lastly, we have your shita. That's the tongue. Sorry. Your shita. That's your tongue. Shita, tongue. Okay, well, I feel like we learned a lot of parts of the body today. As always, though, I do want to teach you a quick grammar point in this lesson to accompany what we have already covered today. Today, we're going to learn a very, very easy grammar pattern, though. But I think if you're ever in distress or have a legitimate emergency, this is something that is really good to know how to say. Okay, so the phrase that we're seeing here is nani ga itainda. Whatever it is, ga itainda. Okay, so as I said, we learned a lot of parts of the body today, and therefore I wanted you to know how to have something to say if something is in pain. If a part of your body is in pain, then this is a phrase that's very, very handy to be able to say, this part of my body hurts. You can point to any part of your body and say, that part of the body ga itainda. And this itainda phrase is a very handy way to express that you have pain in that specific part of your body. You can put any body part in front of ga itainda to explain that that's the part that hurts. For example, ude ga itainda, my arm hurts. Or perhaps, oshiri ga itainda, my butt hurts. Oh no, did you fall down and hurt your butt? Poor thing. However, what you might be noticing is this little nda after itai, right? It's the hard n, or actually it's an engma, but that doesn't matter. But it's that consonant n plus da. So itainda. It's the nda part that we're going to learn about today. That's the quick grammar point that we will be discussing. It's this little nda form, and that's one that we can use in a variety of different cases. It does a few different things. One of the things that it does is give your sentence the feeling of providing some kind of explanatory information. It's showing kind of conversational participation in the way that it explains some kind of detail. And that's why we often use it in this itainda structure, because you're often going to find yourself explaining your pain to somebody like a doctor, right? So the doctor might be asking you something like, どうして赤ちゃんのように泣きてしているの? They're asking you something like, why are you crying like a baby? To which you might want to answer something like, おっしゃった、おててが痛いんだ. Actually, now that I think about it, you probably would not be talking this way to your doctor. As you might have already figured out, this nda form is pretty exclusively a casual form, which is why I've given you a sentence here that's like, I bow down, my little hand hurts. The nda form is very casual. That doesn't mean that it's baby talk. That's not what I'm implying. Technically, the n in nda is actually just a shortened hiragana no. You might actually see that in more kind of formal phrases like no des. But the nda is basically similar, just way more conversational, right? It's way more conversationally participatory. It's a casual form that you would use with friends, just like you would ordinarily think about using the da form or the casual form. Ne? When used with a verb, the nda can be used to create sentences like this. Kusuri o nomunda. Ne? Kusuri o nomunda. I took my meds. So what does a sentence like kusuri o nomunda accomplish that's particularly different from the sentence kusuri o nomimashita? Well, basically, the nda form is providing context while showing some kind of emotional investment in the conversation, right? It definitely marks it as casual. It's definitely like, yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily say that it's slang per se, but this is definitely a friendly conversation. And it's a friendly conversation in which you are definitely trying to express something. It makes your Japanese sound a bit more intense, and it forces your claim to carry more weight, right? It's like, I took my meds. You can kind of think of the nda form as almost the way that we use italics for emphasis in English. So, kusuri o nomunda sounds emphatic and invested. I took my meds, right? It's the answer to a question in which perhaps you've been accused of not doing that thing. In short, it's an explanation, right? You're kind of defending yourself to some degree. Likewise, as I showed you before in sentences like ude ga itainda, ne? You can use this nda form with an adjective to really put emphasis on that adjective word. My arm hurts. And yes, it does slightly convey the kind of sense of being just a little bit whiny, which is why I gave you that sentence before that was kind of written in baby talk, right? Because yes, the nda form can come across as being a little bit whiny. It's not itself supposed to be baby talk. It's just supposed to be casual, but it does kind of convey the idea of like, it hurts. Oh, actually, you can also use this form with nouns when you want to emphasize the noun in the sentence too. But you do have to make a small change to your sentence if you do. To use this nda form to emphasize a noun in a sentence, you need to put na before the nda form, like nanda, as you do in this example. 大切な点は健康なんだ. Health is the important point, right? You're putting the emphasis on kenko. Kenko nanda. You're emphasizing kenko, right? And so our sentence, 大切な点は健康なんだ. Of the things that are important, it's health that's important. This isn't going to fit into any sentence, but if you really want to emphasize a noun in an X, Y, des sentence pattern, where the noun should be slotted into the Y slot, then you can use this pattern, which puts a much stronger emphasis on that noun. これは今日の授業の終わりなんだ。以上です。I hope you learned something cool today. I know for many of you today's lesson might have been filled with a lot of words and concepts that were very much review for you. But remember, review can be important. 復習も大切ですね. It's through review that we honestly solidify the things that we really need to know when it comes to our language goals. Without doing any review, we're forever just filling our brains with new information as the old information just gets replaced. Starting tomorrow, we're going to be learning VTuber-specific terms. I'm really looking forward to Offkai, even though I won't actually be able to go this year. I'll be running a series of streams that I'm calling Road to Offkai in the week just before the con kicks off. It's my little way of participating even though I can't actually participate. I just want to celebrate the amazing content creators who are going to be showcased there. A lot of them are my friends, and they really matter to me, and I really wish I could be there. I'm a little sad that I can't go, so doing Road to Offkai is a way for me to kind of be there in heart and spirit. So that's all for me today. Look for me in a few weeks. I'll be doing a larger lesson on VTuber-specific terminology. I really hope that you have a wonderful day. Please take care of your health. Odaiji ni. Odaiji ni is a phrase in Japanese that means it's important, and we use it when we want someone to look after their health. Please take care, and I'll see you soon. Mata ne!